Hey, do you ever just walk around in a video game city and try to click on everything you can? Well, that's one of my hobbies, so why not make a video out of it? The Dorgesh-Kaan city has a lot of unique and fun things only found here. So let's go have a quick look. For those who are unfamiliar, Dorgesh-Kaan is a goblin city in old-school RuneScape. The entire city is actually underground. The goblins living here are friendly to players. You can still fight their guards if you feel like it though. The city was released in 2007, so it's an old place, and there's been no real updates since the release. We should probably start from the entrance of the city. So let's have a look. This big door is the main entrance. So the very first thing people see is this ass door design. And this is what the door looks like from the inside of the city. It looks like it's actually cut in half. And the outside door model is fully intact. Both of these doors have their own examine texts as well. This yellow wireframe is the object's interactable part. It's an in-game plugin I'll use to show what I'm talking about occasionally. With this door, for example, you can't interact with the backside of it at all. Makes me wonder why they modeled the entire door. The first NPC we can find inside the city is a Dorgesh-Kaan guard. They have a talk to and a fight option. They have a lot of flavor text, but nothing they say is that unique or interesting. We also find some electrical wiring along the walls here. We can't click on these, so there's no flavor text for us. The layout of this entrance is kinda weird. We get a narrow pathway that splits in two. One of these paths go into a random goblin's home. His door doesn't seem to fit the doorway completely, as you can see. That's because this door is copy and pasted from the higher floors of the city. It fits those doorways a lot better. These doors actually use a metallic sound effect. We can find the same sound effect in a lot of metallic gates all over the game. These doors have the anti-spam feature. If you keep opening and closing the door, it will get stuck in the open position. This is not unique to Dorgesh-Kaan, I just wanted to mention it. This goblin apartment has a single goblin living inside. We also get our first look at some unique Dorgesh-Kaan furniture. The goblin living here is an unnamed generic goblin citizen. They have a lot of clothing variations, but functionally they're all the same. They also have a lot of dialogue. It's mostly boring flavor text, but for whatever reason, you have options to be rude to the goblins. I think that's kind of funny. You can actually steal from these goblins too. Their pickpocketing loading table is quite unique, but it's not that useful. Most of the items you can steal are low healing food items and caving related junk. These goblins have some very unique animations. They actually blink during their idle animation. It doesn't sound too unique, but humans have these small black eyes, so we never do it. The goblins actually blink one eye at a time when they're walking around, which is pretty funny, but it's hard to notice if you're not paying attention. It's also kind of hard to film. They also have these partner animations, which we will see if two goblins are close to each other. These type of animations are kind of rare in this game. It's quite buggy as well, as you can see. The goblin on the left has some spikes coming from their back when they bend over. This room has a lot of furniture only found in Dorgesh-Kaan. The lamp's examine text mentions they're powered by Dorgesh-Kaan magic. We see a lot of electrical cables all over the place, so I don't know if electricity is magic for them. This shelf has a lot of different variations. The objects on these shelves rarely look like in-game items though. We find these chairs and tables copy and pasted all over the city. There's even some fancy versions of these later. The next area is the town center or main hall, or whatever you wanna call it. It's the biggest open space in the city. The very first detail players might miss is this goblin-sized doorway. It's too small for humans, so it looks like it's blocking the player's head. This upper part is only visible with roofs enabled, so most players never see this. These small waterfalls are all actually separate objects. Even these two water streams on the right are not the same object, but two smaller ones in a trench coat. We find our first big street lamp here. There are some insects forming it. We can't actually interact with these at all. There's no clickbox for them. These lamps are actually 2 floors high and will be cut off if you disable roofs. If you go to the second floor of the city, you can actually highlight the top part of the lamp. These statues look like they're doing the human wave and bow emotes, which is kind of weird considering we have goblin-specific bow and salute emotes in the game. You would think they would use the goblin-specific emotes in the Goblin City. Next up, bug-eyed, little goblin fish. You can find these little dudes in at least 4 different locations in the city. They stay underwater most of the animation, but they do jump up occasionally. Interestingly enough, their clickbox moves with the fish model. If you're fast enough, you can actually click the fish mid-air and get the interaction options. The goblin fish is actually a loachfish model. It's an edible item with no raw variant, interestingly enough. You can get these from the local Dorgesh-Kaan Market minigame, more of that later. There's a lot of thought put into these plants. The small 2 and 3 leaf variants have their own examine text. Same goes for the big 4 leaf variant. All of these plants have a visible crack they're growing out of. It's kind of hard to notice unless you're zooming in. There's also 2 variants of this flowering pot plant model as well. They kinda remind me of the strange plant random event plant. These plants are copy and pasted all over the city. Let's go look at one of the most unique buildings in the city next. Old Axe Place. Oldak has a lot of flavor text and quest-related dialogue. He also talks about teleport spheres, which he can make for you. These spheres are really unique. They teleport you to a random tile in the destination area. The sphere teleport animation is also quite long and unique. Oldak also has a lot of overhead dialogue. This is not unique to Oldak, but it's quite uncommon in this game. He's kind of a mad scientist, so the objects make a lot more sense if you know who lives here. The first object is this cool workbench. The examine text is very descriptive, which I appreciate. We find some orbs on the table. It looks like Oldak's been tinkering with teleport spheres. We also find another one of these tables copy and pasted here. The next object is this plasma ball thing. It's actually two separate objects. The exam indexes are quite vague with this one. We find two more of these on the top floor of this building. The next thingy we can look at is this Ujima flip thing. It kinda looks like a drawer with some globes on top of it. The exam index doesn't really help a lot here. The backside of this looks interesting. I'm not sure if this was placed the wrong way around. The next object is this thingy-magic. It actually has its own sound effect that you can only hear if you're close to it. This electric effect actually clips through the ground. You can see it on the second floor of the city. The second floor has a lot of generic copy and pasted furniture. We do find a squelchy fungus doormat here. The top floor's bed seems to be made out of the same material. There's no mention of the squelch in the exam index though. We can find our first thievable Dorgesh-Kaan chest here. This is a good spot to talk about the chests you can steal from in this city. We can find two different types of chests here. The average chest and the rich chest. They look slightly different. You can notice extra gold on the rich one. The average chest restocks its loot every 90 seconds. And the rich one every 5 minutes. You need to pick the lock with a lockpick item to actually loot these. The thieving level requirement for the average chest is 52, and the rich one needs 78 thieving. The city has 17 average chests and 8 rich chests total. The average chest's loot is mostly caving related items, and the rich chest has the same loot, plus gems and frog leather armor. But that's not all. The city has two chests with unique loot tables. This chest at Oldak's house is the only chest with runes and talismans in the loot table. And the chest at the Zaniks house has some ham robes and bone weapons inside. Alright, let's move on to the next building, the Bank of Dorgesh-Kaan. This building looks pretty standard. The banker NPCs all have normal dialogue options as well. The examine texts of the bank are pretty fun and unique. They have a few variations of this cool table in the bank. They substitute bat wings as feathers for writing, which is quite creative. I don't think they have feathered animals down here, so it does make sense. The most unique thing about this building is that a goblin citizen is scripted to walk in here occasionally. They always walk to this exact bank booth, stand here for a bit, and then leave. I forgot to mention that these waterfalls have unique sound effects. Outside of the bank, we can find these same 2-floor-high lamps. This time they have wires connecting them to each other and walls. We also see these smaller fountains and benches scattered all over. There's nothing super interesting going on with them, but they're so close to each other that you can't even walk in between them. I kind of wish we could sit on random benches and chairs out in the world. We can actually sit on chairs in the player-owned house, but that's different. We do have this one lunar spell that makes you sit down on the ground, which is what I've been using this whole video. Sadly, it's only for the ground, and you can't actually sit on benches. Anyway, let's keep going with the goblin place. This next building seems to have no real use for it. It looks like a storage room. There's not much going on here. We do find some blue zabbers though. We also find moth NPCs we can actually click on, which is exciting. This room has a lot of corners, so the goblins get stuck a lot here, which is ideal for thieving. But that's about it. Across the street we find a generic goblin home. It's filled with copy and pasted furniture. We do find a unique goblin NPC here. He can only be seen if you've done the quest Another Slice of Ham. My cameraman account hasn't done the quest, so he can't see the goblin. His dialogue is mostly talking about the quest and nothing super interesting. You can buy the ancient mace from him with 1k, which is good, I guess. Next up is one of the more well-known areas of the city, the marketplace. This place is very unique and interesting visually and functionally. But let's start with the food stalls. The base stall model is the same for all of them, but the display items are very unique. The items on the counters are baked into the stall model itself, so we won't actually get any unique examine texts here. We find a lot of food items here, some of which look like in-game food models. For example, this soup bowl on the red stall is the same model as the green gloop soup. We also find models that are modified specifically for these stalls. For example, these bowls. They look similar to the green gloop soup, but there's no bumps in the soup. We also find unique non-food items here, like these yellow cleavers. I'm not sure what material they're supposed to be, but I do know we don't have these as an in-game item. The next stall has more cleavers. We also find some grey mushrooms in here. I'm not sure if this mushroom is unique to this stall. It might be used somewhere else as well. We also find this grey mystery gloop here. It kind of looks like a mushroom head, but I'm really not sure what it is. The unique food item on the next stall is sushi. I didn't even know this was in the game, but we do have sushi. The in-game item used here is the eel sushi model. They recolored it a few times to get some variation on the stall. This next stall just has a frog hanging around here. The frog model is clearly not in one piece. It's missing a few legs. If I had to guess, I would say this frog model is taken from the roast frog item and modified quite heavily. The next stall has some more of the soup I talked about earlier. But we also find frog spawn here. They used the frog spawn model and modified it quite a bit to get all of these different plates. And these grubs on display are similar to this
Grub à la mode.
item. As you can see, they actually separated the in-game grub item and made it two separate display items on the stall. I think this brown fella is a slug of some kind, but it's kind of hard to tell. And that's all the food stalls. The next stall has armor. This whole thing is a single entity, even though the sunshade wall thing doesn't look connected to the table. You can see the frog leather chaps and body on the table here. These models are almost the same as the wearable versions. Interestingly enough, they separated the body armor's sleeves and put them on the table as a separate item. The armor set does not have vamp braces, making this stall arrangement interesting. The player does get these small armbands when wearing the armor though. They're purely cosmetic though. They don't take up the glove slot. The display pants look just like the wearable version. The stall has an armor vendor named Reldag, who sells armor. His wandering radius is quite big, so he's not always next to his stall. You really do have to go look for him sometimes. He's the only vendor in the game who actually sells frog leather armor. The only other way of getting this armor is stealing it from a chest in the same city. Players might be familiar with this next stall. This is the lamp and light source stall. This stall has a lot of familiar items, with slight variation in the models. The mining helmet on display, for example, has built-in goggles, unlike the helmet players can wear. Even the goblin miner NPCs outside don't have goggles. We do have one goblin with goggles and a helmet, but his goggles look a lot more like glasses to me. The oil lantern model on the table looks like the filled model. Empty and filled oil lanterns look different when you actually drop them on the ground and actually look at them. The empty one looks like it's sunken into the ground, but it's actually missing the bottom part entirely. This bullseye lantern on the table is missing the bolts in the corners. The oil lamp is similar to the oil lantern. Again, the empty and filled versions look different. The empty guy is missing the bottom part as well. We also find a black tinderbox hiding in the back. It looks a lot like a recolored version of the normal tinderbox, which it is, to be fair. It's missing a texture on the underside of the lid though. This doohickey next to the stall is called a lamp still. Players can use this to fill lamps with oil by shoving swamp tar into it. There's only 2 of these machines in the entire game, so there's a good chance Ironman players are familiar with this. The last stall in the market is an empty one. It's the same model that's used for the armor and lamp stalls though. The table model has this one crack, which is found on all of the tables. It makes sense though, since they probably copy and pasted this table. The weird thing is, this smaller table has the crack as well. This market area has a pretty unique market minigame players can play. It's quite complex, so we won't go through the entire thing here. In a nutshell, the goblins see human food as exotic, and if the player brings some here, they will pay good money for it. Depending on how much the goblin likes the food, they might pay a lot for it. The catch is, you have to name the price for the food before you actually sell it. They might also give you some exclusive goblin food as a rare reward. This is the only way in the game to get most of these items. Functionally speaking, they're not very useful, as they heal very little. But they're a cool collector's item, I guess. We can actually see many of these items on display here. South of the market, we find more of these moth NPCs. I find it pretty funny how they walk around like normal NPCs would, despite being a flying monster. We find another one of these beautiful goblin fishes here. There's also a generic goblin house here, with copy and pasted furniture. These crates are new though. We find more of these in other parts of the city. Players can typically look inside crates, but these don't have that functionality. You might have seen these red lamps around. Well, they can actually break randomly. And the player can fix these for XP. This is the first broken one I've found. So this is a good spot to go over how they work. So what you need is a light orb in your inventory. Then you simply click on the lamp to fix it. There's no animation for fixing the lamp, you simply get the XP reward. But you also get a chat message telling you the location of another broken lamp. On top of getting XP for fixing a lamp, you get a nice chunk of extra XP for fixing 50 lamps. This shelf variant has a pretty cool looking book on it. I'm not sure if it's meant to be a copy of a book the players can actually get. We do have these two books which are kinda similar. I mean, not really, but all of these have the circle in the middle. This book does look kind of familiar to me though, not sure why. On the west side of the marketplace, there's more generic goblin homes. This building has two entrances, one of them being this weird S shape, right next to the normal entrance. All of the furniture found here is copy and pasted, so there's nothing too interesting going on. We do find more of this unclickable carpet. There's also a thieveable chest and a few fixable lamps, but that's about it. The goblin who's living here is quite unique. The god-fearing Urmig. She is a member of the Goblin Council and she likes to yap about the gods a lot. In fact, I think she has the most amount of dialogue in the city. She has a total of 26 of these dialogue panels, which is quite a lot considering she doesn't really have any functionality. It's not even like a lore dump or anything. She just talks about the gods. It's a lot of dialogue, so I won't even go through all of it. Even the wiki has a comment about it. The next building is slightly more interesting. Barlak the Bone Guy lives here. If you've ever seen some weird bone drops, or heard of people saying something about bones giving construction XP, this is the guy who does it. Contrary to what the examine text says, he does not sell any bone goods, he just buys bones. When you sell bones to him, he gives you a little bit of gold and construction XP. The weapons racks with bone weapons on them share the same examine text. Interestingly enough, the cashier counter's examine text doesn't talk about the weapons on top of it. It doesn't even mention the cool cash register. The weapon racks display bone weapons. Most of these are in-game weapons the players can actually wield. There's a few odd ones though. Like this bone pickaxe, which the players can't get. These bone maces also look a little bit different from the ones the players can wear. This room also has this box with a bunch of bones in it. We also find more of these cool looking crates. Alright, that's the main area of Dorgesh-Kaan explored. Next up is the southern part of the city. When you get down here, the first thing you see is this cool wire machine. You can steal the wire it spits out. I say steal because you get a thieving experience from taking it. You also need a thieving level of 44 to take the wire. It's kind of similar to stealing from a market stall, except the local goblin guard doesn't aggro if they see you do it. The machine also has this unique sound effect. It sounds like two separate sound effects. You can kind of tell them apart if you walk around since they're proximity based. The machine is made up of 4 distinct parts. They're all animated separately as well. They really didn't need to put this much effort into this niche little thing, but they did. Next up is the smith shop. This triple anvil thing is actually functional. You can use it for smithing. These tools on the wall are super unique. They have a take option, but when you try to do it, the goblin won't actually let you take them. He explains these tools are special. There's 3 unique sets of these tools on the walls. They all have the take option and unique examine texts, but the goblin won't let you take any of them. You can actually find these same tool rack models in Varrock. They're recolored slightly. The Varrock variants actually have no clickbox, so you don't get an examine text or anything. These tools might be reused somewhere else too, but I'm not sure. This big open furnace is actually functional too. But the player can only use it to smelt glass and jewelry. The bellows are not functional, but these coal shards on the ground are a part of the clickbox, which is kinda interesting, I think. This pile of metal bars look a bit like unfinished pickaxe heads to me. The goblin living here, Bartag, has no functionality. His dialogue is just flavor text. The upstairs area of this shop is mostly copy and pasted goblin furniture. This chimney pipe is the only unique part of this floor. It's connected to the furnace below. This pipe is actually connected to this chimney on the roof. Technically this roof is on the 3rd floor of the city. The chimney does have a clickbox and an examine text, but you have to be on the same level as the chimney to actually click it. There's not a lot of places you can go that are on the same level, so I doubt many people have ever clicked on this chimney. You can see it from the lower levels if you have roofs enabled, but the clickbox doesn't work from those levels. We also have a functional sand pit nearby. You could probably make glass somewhat efficiently with the furnace being so close. I just noticed that those small circular parts at the bottom of those railings are actually separate. When I move around a bit, the second floor gets deloaded, and the small circular parts stay here. This area has a generic goblin home. We mostly find copy and pasted goblin furniture here. We do find a functional sink here. It has an unique examine text too. This next area doesn't have much going on. However, we do have a rare case of roof-like structures that won't actually go away if you disable roofs. That lighter part looks like the walkways on the second floor. However, the actual walkway is much darker and more detailed, so the white part is actually hidden underneath it. The next area to the east is the cooking area. It's the home of my favorite NPC, the fabled Speed Goblin. Funny goblin names aside, this guy doesn't really do much. He does mention frog burgers, so that's something I guess. This spit he uses for cooking is actually a separate object from the fire pit. It makes some sense that the object called frog spit has a unique examine text. But this fire pit has a unique one as well. You would think they would just copy and paste a fire from some different place. But no, it's unique as well. This rotating frog is actually animated quite well too. You can see the legs folding a bit when he's upside down. This area doesn't seem to have any other unique NPCs. We do find some of these moths here, and a handful of cave goblins. We also find these crate goblins here, but it's not the only place we find these guys. The crate they carry is actually the same object you can find as decoration around the city. The crate goblins have a path they're scripted to walk in this area of the city. This path actually goes across other parts of the city as well. Their path is this small loop across the market area of the city. They get stuck on other NPCs quite often, and they even teleport if they're stuck for a long time. They seem to stop at the lantern stall for a bit, then they come back to the cooking area. This building has a lot of cool, unique objects. We find 2 cooking ranges with a bunch of goblin food frying up. These ranges are actually functional too, so you can actually cook here. A lot of the food items on these ranges are food items found in the marketplace. These grubs in the soup look like these grubs. And this green blob on the frying pan looks like a cut frog spawn. And this brown logo shit with antennas that they're frying is a snail, I think. When I saw it in the marketplace I wasn't sure what it was, but I think it's a snail. I think these green globs might be raw grubs. I'm not positive though. We also find a mushroom and a small frog here. These small shells on top of the ranges have unique examine texts. There's a third shelf on the other side of the room. It also has a unique examine text. There's some pots hanging next to it that looks like measurement cups to me. Right underneath we have a kitchen table where the goblins make their scrummy food. The sink right next to it is actually copy and pasted from the previous area. This top floor is filled with copy and pasted furniture. We do find one unique thing here though. This chest is permanently open. The chest model is the same as the ones you can steal from. This is the first time I've noticed that curved part on the front. Apparently every chest in the city has it. We also find a generic goblin house in this part of the city. We find no unique furniture, it's all copy and pasted. The goblins living here are unique though. They have so much dialogue, I don't even feel like editing all of it in. They do a reference to Goblin Diplomacy quest, where they bicker about what color of armor their guards should wear. Their dialogue actually includes both goblins, making this a 3-person chat. It doesn't even matter which goblin you talk to first, they both chime in. The player character actually turns to face whichever goblin is currently talking. This is kinda rare in this game. Alright, that's the entire ground floor of the city explored. We still have the upper floor to look at. There's also this huge spooky cave at the back that people forget about. We'll explore the cave last. But first, let's look at the fancy upper floor. You can actually see the front door of the city through the walls here. It's actually hidden if you have roofs enabled because of this rocky wall. It's kind of hard to notice if you're not looking for it. But once you know it's there, it's hard to unsee. The first building on the northeastern corner is this fancy building. A lot of players have probably been in here. The quest Another Slice of Ham starts from this building. The goblin living here doesn't say anything super interesting. Well, he does mention the spooky cave down south, but that's about it. You also find this ambassador dwarf in here. But he actually goes away if you finish the quest. He does this animation at the goblin, which is pretty unique. These chairs and the table have almost the same examine text. The chairs don't look like they're made for humans, which makes sense. These statues, or busts as they call them, have the same examine text despite looking different. These busts are actually blocking these two tiles, so you can never actually walk there. This red carpet looks like a recolored version of the green carpets. The red ones do have this gold trim around the edges. It has no clickbox, just like the green carpets. These posters on the walls have no clickbox either. This one poster is actually blocking a window. You can still see into the house through it, but you can't see outside. We also find these grates that look like air ventilation to me. They're missing a clickbox, so we can't get any examine text to tell us what they are. This upstairs area is surprisingly basic. We find a lot of red and gold trimmed furniture, but they're mostly recolored objects from previous buildings. There are some unique differences too. For example, the bed is missing the roll. The headboard is different as well. We also find the smaller version of the fancy table from the lower floor. They actually have the same examine text. We start to see these gold-trimmed shelves a lot more on the top floor of the city. The random assortment of crap on these shelves look the same as the untrimmed shelf variant. This cool archway window thing above the door is kinda weird. It's simply not there on the other side. You just get a basic wall. The next building also has a similar glass archway that looks weird on the other side. This building is also missing a door. The moment you step in, you're ambushed by two goblin busts. These busts have a different examine text from the previous building's busts. The table and chairs have a lot of these golden engravings on them. The chair at the end of the table is unique. It's red, and the engraving in the back is different. It also has its own examine text. These carvings could be their alphabet or something similar. They're different from each other, despite having the same examine text. We don't actually see these being used a lot in the city. We see these square ones used a lot more. These chairs and the table, for example. This building has one unique goblin NPC, the Goblin Scribe. He has this kinda cool idle animation. The animation ends in a weird way. It looks kind of unfinished. He might have the most dialogue out of the city. It's actually kinda absurd. He asks a bunch of historical things from the player. There's 4 separate multiple answer questions too. I don't even want to edit all of it in. These bookshelves are using the regular shelf as a base. I find it kind of interesting that they did not use a gold-trimmed version. I think this is the fanciest building in the city, so you would think they would use the gold ones. These tables are very unique. They have a familiar base table model, but we get more of these pathwing pencils on top. We found these in the bank as well. These white things are actually some sort of scrolls, but they're a little too low, so they clip into the table itself. They're hard to get on film, but you might be able to see it still there. It's just inside the table. The building itself looks like it has 2 floors, but it's just one tall floor instead. The next building is just Old Axe House again, which we went over already. I did forget to mention that it also has one of these archways above the door that's not there on the inside. You can sort of see a lighter part on the wall where the arch is supposed to be. The building next to it is very generic. It pretty much has 0 unique props or NPCs. The most unique part of this building are these ventilation things. But we saw these a few houses ago already. I like this generic goblin NPC in front of the house though. The model reminds me of the bug catcher NPC in Pokemon. I guess it's the hat plus bag combo that does it for me. This next building has a lot of copy and pasted furniture too. But there's no glass where windows should be, there's just holes. We also find green furniture instead of the fancy red ones. Green is a lot more rare in this upper part of the city. We also find plain old furniture with no gold trims. This really makes me think that the red stuff is only for the rich people. These pillars look awfully similar to the ventilation things on the fancier buildings. It's just missing the gold parts. This roof is very happy to see me. I don't know if this is intentional or not. It's not centered, so it looks kinda funny. This next building has this small garden thing in the middle. We find more of these white plants. They're copy and pasted from the middle of the city. This hole in the ceiling is probably supposed to give sunlight to the plants. But the entire city is underground, so I don't know if that makes sense. But we can't see the skybox in the city, so I don't really know. We also find some copy and pasted furniture in here, which is not super exciting. We don't see a lot of ladders in the city. Stairs are far more common here. Something fun about ladders and stairs in this game is they often have this grey tile in them. I'm not sure about the function of it, and it is only visible from underneath. It's kind of hard to get these tiles on film, but they're there. This next building is kinda funny. It's just a small house with a table in it, and 4 chairs, and that's it. The building next to that one is not super interesting either. Everything here is copy and pasted too. At least we find a chest here, so that's something, I guess. This next building is also full of copy and pasted furniture. And this one also has no windows. I mean, it does have those holes, but no glass in them. We don't see a lot of these taller buildings with no glass. There's one unique thing about this building though. It has this one-way hole in the wall. It looks like an archway you would see above doors. It's in a weird spot, so if I had to guess, I would say it's misplaced here. This next building has the same archway, but it's on top of the door this time. It looks a lot more fitting. This building is filled with copy and pasted furniture, so there's nothing super interesting going on. And that's all of the western buildings on the top floor covered. The eastern side of this layer is far more interesting, with a lot of unique stuff going on. This building has some copy and pasted stuff. We actually find our first scroll that's not clipping into the table. We also find a lot of decoration with no click boxes. This map on the right might be an in-game location. I'm bad at GeoGuessr though, so I don't know. This drawing to the left looks a bit like a crude law rune to me. The second floor is full of copy and pasted furniture too. We also see the same unclickable shelves here. The next building is Ambassador Alvijar's house. His house has a mix of Dorgesh-Kaan and Keldagrim furniture, which makes sense considering he's a dwarf from Keldagrim. You can actually find these beds, chairs and tables in Keldagrim. Copy and pasting this stuff to the Goblin village is a cool touch. These objects are pretty small. This table is only knee-high to humans, which makes sense. These lanterns on the wall are actually missing a click box. The ambassador himself can only be found here if you've done a lot of quests. If you haven't progressed enough in the quest line, he's actually found a few buildings north. He also has a basement. We can find some Keldagrim bookshelves and cabinets down here. One of the cabinets has a fun examine text as well. The bookshelf actually has a search option, but you can't actually take any books from it. The next building is Zaniks' house. She has a lot of unique stuff in here. These fungus seeds are unique to this building. They could be used somewhere else in the game, but I'm not sure. These tables share the examine text. I think the base table model is reused in other places of the city, but the stuff on top of the table is interesting. I know the map is reused and the mushrooms might be as well. But I really have no idea what these whip-like vines are on the table. I think this beetle is unique to this building. I don't recall a beetle like this that the players can fight in the game. Same goes for the moth. The examine text makes me think it's supposed to be a giant version of these small guys that hang around the lamps, but I don't know. This frog model looks a bit more familiar. I think they've used this frog model quite a bit in the city. It's always modified a little bit though. This one in particular has a small hole in its back. It might be a crossbow or a spear wound, considering it's a hunting trophy. I know Zanik uses a bone crossbow in one of the quests. I'm very impressed with the small details. The examine text alone explains it, but they actually made a visible hole in the frog as well. We find a lot of copy and pasted things on the top floor, including the hunting trophies. These shelves have unique examine text though. We also find this cute tiny frog on one of the shelves. Next up is the Goblin Daycare. This place is really unique. I think the only copy and pasted part of this building are these two lamps in the middle, and that's it. The rest is all unique assets, I think. There's even some cool secrets you might not know about. We get this little jingle every time we walk into the building. This jingle only plays when you walk into the specific tile from the west. It also starts again from the beginning if you walk into the tile again while it's playing. But it also plays if you log in on this tile. I don't really know how programming works, but this is interesting to me. Somehow logging into this tile is the same as walking into this tile from the west specifically. We find a lot of variation in the cave goblin child models. They all have the same functionality and the same dialogue though. Some of the dialogue is pretty funny. They actually have the same walking animation as the adult goblins do. They actually have some unique animations as well. They have these play animations, which requires two kids to be close to each other. They also have this ball they kick around. They don't actually have an animation for kicking the ball, but they do have an animation for walking with the ball. The actual kick is just sort of implied. It's kind of funny. It might be kind of hard to notice if you're not looking for it. But the ball just disappears from their model when they're passing the ball.
Dennis Bergkamp neemt de bal aan! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp!
We also have a named goblin nanny here. A random goblin kid actually partakes in her dialogue. Some of the lines the kids yell out are pretty funny. We also find 4 of these baby goblins with unique names. Well, we only find 3 actually unique ones. They copy and pasted one of them. They have the same examine text, but they don't really do anything, which makes sense. Oh my god, he's just like me. The babies have 2 different playpens. This one has some cool toy kitchen appliances. They're not actually functional, which does make sense. The other pen has nothing interesting in it. It does have a different fence though. We find 2 of these cribs in here. It's definitely a unique object, but it's not that interesting. These chalk markings on the ground all have a clickbox. Surprisingly, each shape has their own examine text as well. We can actually find the same symbols in the alphabet posters in the fancier buildings. We find more of these symbols in these cubes. I think it's their alphabet, but I don't think they've ever told us explicitly, so I can't be too sure. This puzzle toy is in 2 separate objects on the ground. They both actually have the same examine text. You can actually walk on top of these too. This baby is demonstrating it nicely. I didn't even plan for that, but that works. The building next to the daycare is painfully generic. It's all just copy and pasted stuff. We do find a ladder here, but it just leads to a previous goblin home down below. This next building is empty and barred off. We find some fancy windows and archways on the front side of this building. You can only see these if you have roofs enabled, so not a lot of people have seen these. But that's not the only thing hidden by the roof toggle. Yep, that's a lamp head. It's just floating there. The only way to actually see it without the free cam is going one floor up on a different building and panning your camera in a weird way. So I doubt many people know about this one. This building is clearly not finished. I'm curious what the plan was for it though. It's such a big building with a fancy exterior. Also, if that lamphead was meant to be an actual indoor street lamp, I'm sure they had some cool plans. Surely they're going to finish this building someday. This next building is fairly normal. Everything in here is copy and pasted. This top floor has something weird going on though. Can you see it? The bed is facing the wrong way. The headboard is usually against the wall. I'm not sure if this was intentional or not. It doesn't look super weird, but it's the first bed facing this way. This next building looks fairly normal as well, but there's a single leaf on the roof. It's the only building with this feature. Not sure how it got here, since I think the city is underground in a cave. The interior has nothing unique going on. It's quite fancy though, a lot of red and gold. This building might have the most fixable lamps out of any building. We find a total of 8 of these in here. The bottom floor's pillars might be a little bit too high. You can actually see them coming through the floor. They do this glitchy visual thing if your camera moves around. I think this is called Z-fighting, but I'm not sure. The last actual house is also kind of normal. It's full of copy and pasted furniture, which is not terribly surprising at this point. This window is obscured by pillars though, which is kind of weird. We also find more of these glitchy pillars on the top. Next up is the Dorgesh-Kaan train station. This entrance is kind of easy to miss. The doorway is slightly easier to see with roofs disabled. The archway actually stays there, despite being roof height. This archway with a railway icon is actually a part of the clickbox of the door. So you can actually go in by just clicking the archway icon, which is kinda cool. These pillar things surrounding the door are kinda unique. They don't have a clickbox or a unique texture, so they blend in quite well. We find a cool train and some passenger NPCs inside. This train only travels to Keldagrim, so the passengers are goblins and dwarves. Their dialogue is mostly just flavor text about the cities. Both of these passenger NPCs are unique to this area though. Normal goblin NPCs can be pickpocketed, and these goblins lack the option. We also find the fabled ticket goblin here. Despite the examine text claiming that he sells train tickets, the player can actually never buy any, since you become their hero in the quest that gives you access to the train station. They let you travel for free. I like his classic train dude outfit. The thing he has hanging around his neck looks a bit like a tinderbox to me. The entrance back into the city has an abnormally large clickbox. get these mini Dorgesh-Kaan lamps all over the walls. They have no clickbox, sadly. The railings also have no clickbox, but they have a very distinct Dorgesh-Kaan vibe as well. Interestingly enough, this train has 0 clickboxes on it, which is very unusual for such a big unique structure. We can even find a dwarf in the front operating it, but we can't really chat to him. I guess he's kinda busy. The background music in this area has these train sound effects, which is pretty cute. You might have heard it, since it's been in the background for a few minutes already. The sound effects are actually baked into the music track itself, so if you have the music turned off, you don't hear anything. You do get actual train sound effects when you travel though. You also get a fun little cutscene. The train is actually functional, but in a weird way. To actually use it, you just walk into the passenger pods and wait there. Eventually you will get this cutscene and you travel to Keldegrim. Functionally speaking, it's a teleport though. You don't actually see any in-game train movement. This train station has unique dwarf decoration. Since it's in Keldegrim, it does make sense. We won't be exploring Keldegrim today. Maybe some other time, I don't know. These two train station maps are actually physically super close to each other. You can sort of see the other side if you have a render distance plugin. Next up, the spooky cave. I've never really been here prior to making this video. I don't think it's very popular these days. This cave has been here since 2007, so it's way older than the rooftop courses we commonly use these days for agility training. This cave is a lot more than just an agility course though, so let's start from the entrance. These pillars and flags are the same object. They're just called stairs though, which is kinda interesting. You would think the banners were their own object, but no. They're not visible from the bottom floor if you have roofs disabled, which means a lot of players have never seen these. I think the majority of players have roofs disabled almost permanently. Roofs do get in the way quite often. This cave has actual lore, which is pretty cool for an agility course. This is the power plant of the city. It's in bad shape and needs constant repairs, and your job as an agility enjoyer is to bring spare parts to this goblin engineer who's maintaining the power plant. Where do you get these spare parts, you ask? There's an old broken down generator on the other side of the cave, which is where you can salvage some parts. I think it's a pretty cool premise for an agility course. It gives a reasonable reason for the player to keep running the course. The Goblin Engineer's examine text calls the power Cave Goblin magic. I'm still not sure if it's literally magic or if they call electricity magic. He has a lot of dialogue, most of which is used to explain the agility minigame. He also mentions an accident that happened here, but we don't get the details of that accident. These gizmos with no clickbox on the wall are actually reused from this levers object on the other side of this shack. This thing they call a dial is actually a large, dirty boiler in disguise. Moving on. The cave has a lot of small objects with no clickbox scattered all over. This cable piece has a clickbox. It doesn't seem special though, so I don't know why. It looks like they used the same cable a few times. This agility course has two different paths you can take. This route on the west only has 3 grapple hook obstacles. It's simple and faster. This eastern route has a lot more variety in the obstacles. It also takes a bit longer to actually walk through. The route on the west requires you to use a crossbow and a mithril grapple. Every time you swing across, you might lose a grapple. It's random. All three grapple obstacles are the same. The obstacle itself is called a pylon. They have some fun click boxes. I have no clue what this coat hanger shape is, to be honest. I can't click on it or anything. The bottom part that's holding the pylon is not actually a part of the click box, which is kinda interesting. You can see a clear separation between the pylon and the lower part. The gap is actually bigger in some of these. It's very noticeable on this middle pylon. The last pylon is connected well though, no gap to be found here. This western route actually has some unique NPCs. We have Muvario the mage and his bodyguard. They seem to be stuck on this rock island. They're actually a part of an unrelated quest. They're not here to train agility or to fix the power plant. They come here only after you're done the quest Temple of Icov. Their dialogue is just about bickering about being lost and looking for something. The bodyguard has some pretty funny lines though, but other than that, there's nothing super interesting going on. Muvario actually has a pickpocket option. You can steal Lucian pendants from him, which is related to the questline. The eastern route has a lot more variety in the obstacles. The first obstacle is this balancing rope. Mechanically, it's nothing unique. Visually though, it's pretty cool. It looks like a lamppost was melted and stretched across to make the rope. They used the same lamppost object on the other side, but it looks like they didn't rotate it correctly, so it's not actually connected. The next obstacle is this rope swing thing. This one also uses the lamppost objects. I'm sensing a pattern here. Up close, you can see where the interactable part of the object begins on the posts. They're slightly different in color. I like how most agility obstacles have a hint in the examine text. I doubt many people find this actually useful, but I like the detail. The next obstacle is this monkey bar thing, or ladder as it's called in game. These metallic parts holding it up don't actually have a click box, but the monkey bar itself has. It actually has multiple ones. All of these parts share the same examine text. Not sure why it's like this. Looking back at the first obstacle, it also has multiple click boxes. It could have something to do with the agility functionality, but I don't really know. The next obstacle is another rope swing. Looks copy and pasted to me. This next obstacle is called a jutting wall. There's nothing super interesting going on here. My cameraman account doesn't have the agility level to join me, so I can't really get any nice third-person footage. I can still use the Oculus orb just fine though. The next obstacle is just a hole. There's nothing super interesting going on here. The animation seems kinda weird though. It looks like you hunch over and just teleport. It does the job just fine though. The final two obstacles are copy and pasted. We get another balancing rope thing, and a set of monkey bars as well. We also find the only inaccessible rock island nearby. There's nothing on top of it, but it's odd that there's only one of these. And this broken down generator is almost the same as the operational one on the other side. This one is grey though. I'm not sure if it's different material or if the lava underneath the operational one is making it so hot that it's glowing. The new generator's stairs examine text is heat related. The old one's examine text doesn't mention temperature. I would say it's a heat thing, but I don't really know. This old generator is actually missing some of the panels on the walls. The boiler and console share their examine texts. Also, this console box is called levers in the new generator, which is different. This cave also has a lower area, as you might have noticed. That place is filled with cool stuff, so let's have a look. This ladder is the main way to get down. These look like drawer handles to me. The top part of the ladder is called a ladder top, and the examine text is kinda generic. But the name being called ladder top is quite unique and unusual for this game. The bottom part of this ladder, on the other hand, has a generic name and a pretty fun examine text. Slimy stone ladder. We find a lot of slimy mobs down here, including frogs, cave slimes, cave crawlers, small cave bugs, big cave bugs, cave bug larvae, and the most unique monster in this cave, the molanisk. The cave slimes drop swamp tar, and the cave bugs drop water battle staves. Drop-wise, that's the only interesting part about these monsters. The small and big cave bugs actually have different antennae, but that's the only physical difference between their models. It's the same model, just scaled up and different color slightly. They share the same name, but their examine texts are unique. These small grubs look a lot like their gourmet food. I think the goblins make soup and stuff out of these. They're passive, and the player can't actually fight these. The molanisk is only found in this cave. They're actually passive, and you need a Slayer bell item to aggro them, otherwise they just chill on the walls. They have a pretty cool flipping animation when you ring the bell. Their examine text also changes when they're in the aggroed mode. You can actually fish in this cave too. It's not normal fishing though. You can fish frog spawn and eels in here. This cave has a lot of these bone arches. These are also found in the north entrance of the city, so they're not unique to this particular cave. We do have some variants of this though. Some of these arches have this blue/green rag on the top part. These pylons are kinda interesting. Their clickbox extends to like 4 floors, I think, which is kinda rare in this game. Usually you only get 1 floor worth of clickbox, and they often build the higher parts of an object on a higher floor. You can only click on this pylon when you're on the bottom floor, even though the peak of this pylon looks like it's on the same level as the agility area. We also find a smaller variant of these pylons. These smaller ones have some cable sticking out from the top. It's actually 2 different objects. The small cable part is its own entity. They do share the examine text though. We also find a closed-off tunnel here with a unique sign. They're using these square symbols again. We find a lot of these in the fancier parts of the city. Judging by the examine text, the player character seems to know what these symbols mean. The tunnel itself has a pretty cool looking door, made out of bones and some bronze looking metal. It's a functional entrance, even though the examine text and object name might give people the wrong idea. It's some sort of a double door, which was a surprise for me at least. It leads to the Calphite lair, which is underneath the desert. Geographically, it does make some sense. We also find a fairy ring in this cave. This is the coolest looking fairy ring in the game, in my opinion. I really like what they did here. This ring is perfectly functional. You can use it for teleports, just like any other fairy ring. This one in particular seems to be built on top of goblin wiring, though. Usually you see the mushroom rings on the ground. It's wired to this machine on the wall. This machine is purely cosmetic and has no functionality. The examine text says it's old axe work. The machine itself has 2 mushrooms growing on it. It's like a mix of plant and machine. It looks pretty cool to me. I think that's everything Dorgesh-Kaan has to offer. Overall, this city has a ridiculous amount of detail. There's not a whole lot of time-efficient functionality here though, so most players don't really have a reason to visit. I'm sure I missed some things here and there, but I think I got most of it. I had fun making this video though. I might do more on other cities of the game. That's it for this video though. Alright, I'm out. Peace.